Everyone, welcome to MRI Knee Made Easy series. In my previous video, I talked about the imaging appearance of different pathological entities which affect the extensor mechanism of the knee joint. Now, in this video, I will be showing you some of the cases which affect the extensor mechanism of the knee joint. First, starting with this case, this is a case of 18-year-old male who presented with chronic patellar instability. So this is the axial PD fat sac of this patient. He is a young patient, 18-year-old. Let's see. This is the patellar bone. This is femur, and we can see that there is a loose body present here in the lateral patellofemoral recess. So there is a loose body. As we move down, we can see that there is marrow edema involving the lateral femoral condyle. And we can also see that there is some amount of marrow edema involving the medial aspect of patella. And there is edema at the patellar attachment of the medial patellofemoral ligament. And the patella is slightly tilted on the lateral aspect. And you can also see that there is edema involving the femoral attachment of the medial patellofemoral ligament. And as we move down, we can see there is presence of edema involving the medial retinaculum as well. So this patient has complained of chronic patellar instability, and he has developed osteochondral lesion on the medial patellar facet, and this is the loose body which has come out of this, and this is a free body which is moving in the joint, and right now it is in the lateral patellofemoral recess. So we have different measurements that we take in patients with chronic patellar instability. So starting with the trochlear sulcus depth. So we take trochlear sulcus depth, we draw a line from the medial to the lateral aspect of the trochlea. Then we measure its depth in the deepest part. So it is more than 3 mm. So we can say that it is not very shallow. We have to give this measurement in our report. Then we take TT-TG distance. So we draw a line that is tangential to the femoral condyle. Then we draw a line which is perpendicular to this line, and it is cutting the trochlear groove in the center. Then we extrapolate this line where we see the tibial tuberosity. So we extrapolate this line, the previous line, and we also extrapolate the trochlear groove line. And then we take a line that is perpendicular to the condylar line, and it is cutting the tibial tuberosity. And then we measure distance between these two lines. So in this case, it is approximately 8 mm, which is normal. It is less than 15 mm, and it is absolutely normal. Then we can take the lateral trochlear inclination angle. How do we take that? We extend this line medially. Then we draw a line which is tangential to the condylar surface, cortical surface of the lateral trochlear sulcus. Then we measure the angle between these two. So it is approximately 23 mm, which is normal. It is not less than 11 degree. It is 23 degree. Then we can take trochlear facet length ratio. How do we take that? We measure the length of the medial trochlear facet, and we measure the length of the lateral trochlear facet, and we take the ratio, that is 1.3 divided by 2.6 into 100, and if it is less than 40%, then there is trochlear dysplasia. In this case, it is not less than 40%, so there is no obvious trochlear dysplasia. Even then, patient is having chronic patellar instability, and he has developed the osteochondral defect and a loose body. Let's see other parts of the joint. So the cruciate ligament are normal, menisci are normal, and rest of the tendons, ligaments, they are normal. Okay, so let's move to the next case. This is a case of a 26-year-old male who presented with chronic patellar instability. So let's see this case. This is axial PD fat sac, and we can see that there is a loose body here, just inferior to the patella. We can see this loose body is located just inferior to the patella within the Hoffa fat pad. And there is another loose body located in the patellofemoral recess, in the lateral patellofemoral recess. We can see that loose body in other planes. Here it is. Let's see that in T1 weighted sequence. We can see that this loose body is having fatty marrow inside it. So it is a ossified loose body. It is having fatty marrow inside it. We can also see that in T2 weighted sequence, there is fatty marrow inside the loose body. How beautiful it is. Now let's take the measurements that we and we also have the osteochondral lesion involving the patellar ridge. That is the ridge between the lateral and medial patellar facet, and there is osteochondral defect. There is underlying marrow edema, but there is no obvious marrow edema involving the lateral femoral condyle in this case that we saw in the previous one. And there is no obvious edema along the medial patellofemoral ligament. However, it looks thinned out. So again, we can take the trochlear sulcus depth, we can take TTTG distance, and we can take the lateral trochlear inclination angle and the facets ratio. Similar the way we took in the previous case. Let's see other parts of the joint. This patient is having normal cruciate ligament and normal menisci. And normal collateral ligaments. Okay, so let's move to the next case. This is a case of a 40-year-old male who presented with anterior knee pain. This is a sagittal PD fat set. We can see the menisci looks normal. Cruciate ligament appear normal except for slight hyperintensity in the cruciate ligament. There is moderate joint diffusion. We can see small osteophytes along the articular margins of patella, and there is presence of cartilage degeneration involving the patella, and there is involvement of the subchondral bone plate. So there is presence of cystic changes within the underlying bone. Let's see the axial plane. So here we are. So there is cartilage degeneration, hyperintensity within the cartilage, and underlying bone is showing cystic changes. Similarly, cartilage degeneration is also located here within the medial patellar facet. And there is subtle cartilage degeneration involving the lateral patellar facet, plus underlying marrow edema is also there. So this is the case of chondromalacia patelli. There is degeneration involving the articular cartilage covering the patella, and there is underlying marrow edema, cystic changes. We can grade these cartilage injuries with the grading system that we have. These are outer bridge pattern of classification, and the other one is International Cartilage Repair Society classification of the cartilage injuries. We can see the trochlear cartilage on the sagittal plane. There are subtle degenerative changes in the trochlear cartilage as well. And there is subtle amount of marrow edema in the medial femoral condyle. So there are degenerative changes in the other part of the cartilages of the knee joint, in the medial femoral condyle and the medial trochlear facet. But more severe cartilage degeneration is present within the patella. And this is the reason for the patient symptoms. Okay, so let's move to the next case. This is the case of 60-year-old male who presented with knee trauma. He came for MRI approximately 2 weeks after the trauma, and we can see there are large osteophytes seen along the patella. There are degenerative changes in the articular cartilage. The ACL is torn. There are tear involving the menisci, and there is decreased joint space. But besides that, the reason for which I kept this case is presence of this collection, which is located anterior to the patella. So this collection is basically because of the degloving injury, because of the shear injury that patient sustained, and it led to formation of seroma, or there is a fluid collection anterior to the patella. So this is Moral-Lovely lesion. And there is extensive edema all over surrounding the knee joint. So this patient is having changes of osteoarthritis, and superimposed over osteoarthritis, patient is having symptoms related to trauma, like there are cruciate ligament injuries and meniscal injuries, and besides that, patient has Moral-Lovely lesion anterior to the patella and patellar tendon. Let's move to the next case. This is a case of 24-year-old male who presented with pain and swelling in the region of tibial tuberosity, and patient has mild fever and leukocytosis. So as we can see, this is the sagittal PD fat sac, and there is destruction involving the tibial tuberosity. There is an inhomogeneous hyperintensity here, and there is a collection that is extending into the deep infrapatellar bursal space. And there is a lot of adjacent edema involving the Hoffa pad as well as the subcutaneous plane anterior to the tibial tuberosity. So the collection is hyper intense, and there are presence of debris in it. We can see that in the T2 weighted sequence, non-fat cell T2 weighted sequence. So the collection is hyper intense. There is presence of wall thickening, irregularity in the wall. We also have a contrast sequence for this. So on post-contrast sequence, we can see there is intense peripheral enhancement along the collection. So this is osteomyelitis involving the tibial tuberosity. Plus there is abscess formation which has extended into the deep infrapatellar bursal space, and there is extensive edema involving the Hoffa pad, as well as there is edema involving the tibial attachment of patellar tendon, and there is overlying subcutaneous edema. So this patient is having osteomyelitis involving the tibial tuberosity with adjacent abscess. And rest of the structures of the knee joint are normal. There is no obvious joint diffusion. You can see the joint diffusion in T2 weighted sequence. So there is no obvious joint diffusion, very minimal joint diffusion is seen, and rest of the joint appear normal. Let's see next case. This is a case of 31-year-old male who hit his knee with a hard object. And as we can see, there is slight amount of edema involving the anterior cruciate ligament. However, the fibers are intact. Posterior cruciate ligament is intact. The lateral meniscus is normal. Medial meniscus is showing grade 2 signal intensity in the posterior horn. But the patient is having moderate joint diffusion. It is extending into the suprapatellar recess. And as we can see, the patella is showing inhomogeneous hyperintensity. So let's see that in other planes. This is the axial PD fat set, and we can see that there is presence of comminuted non-displaced patellar fracture. It is minimally displaced. There is cortical offset here, and the fracture margin line is quite sharp. And there is also tear involving the lateral patellar retinacular attachment. There is joint diffusion. So there is comminuted patellar fracture. You can see that in other planes. This is the coronal T1 weighted sequence, and you can see beautiful fracture line. Besides that, this patient is having areas of altered signal intensity in the femoral condyle and tibial plateau, and these lesions are also noted within the metaphysis as well as the epiphyseal region. And as we can see, there are areas of fatty marrow within it, and the shape of the lesions are serpingeous. So these lesions give an appearance of bone infarct. The patient might be on corticosteroid, or there might be some other risk factors for bone infarct. So this patient is having multiple bone infarcts involving the femur and tibia. And this patient is also having comminuted patellar fracture. Let's move to the next case. It is also our last case. This is a case of 64-year-old male. And this patient presented with swelling in the anterior aspect of knee joint. Swelling was soft and compressible. And so this patient came for MRI. And as we can see, there is a large collection which is extending from above the patella to entire extent of the patella and patellar tendon within the subcutaneous plane. You can see that in axial plane also. So there is large collection, and it is also extending in the mediolateral extent. And there are multiple internal septations. So this is a complex fluid collection. There is no obvious history of trauma in this case. This patient is having extensive prepatellar and superficial infrapatellar bursitis. There is large collection anterior to the patella and patellar tendon within the subcutaneous plane. And besides that, patient is having osteophytes as he is 64-year-old. We can see multiple osteophytes, degenerative changes. The lateral meniscus is normal. Medial meniscus is showing grade 2 single intensity within the body. And there are multiple complex cystic lesions. Let's see that in axial plane. So we can see here multiple cystic lesions are seen on the medial aspect of the popliteal fossa. And these cystic lesions are communicating with the semimembranosus gastrocnemius bursa. So there is loculated bursal distension which is extending superiorly. We can also give the differential of ganglion cyst in this location, which can generate, which can form in relationship with the important tendons which are seen here. So this can be a complex ganglion cyst, as we cannot see a very gross distension of the bursa here, or it can be bursal extension in the cranial aspect. But the main cause for patient symptom is the prepatellar and superficial infrapatellar bursitis. So I showed you the cases of patellofemoral instability, Moral-Lovely lesion, and the prepatellar and superficial infrapatellar bursitis. Then I showed you case of chondromalacia patelli, and there are many other pathological entities also which can be seen in the extensor compartment of the knee joint, which includes a rupture of the quadriceps tendon and the jumper's knee and Osgood-Schlatter's disease or Silding-Larsen-Jensen syndrome. So there are multiple other pathological entities which can also affect the extensor mechanism. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you.